I'm going to call to order this meeting of the Monroe County Board of Commissioners. It is Wednesday, October 27th, 2021 at 10 a.m. And we have our public statement read by Commissioner Gibbons.
We, the Monroe County Board of Commissioners, renew our commitment to welcome and protect the rights of all people, regardless of age, race, color, creed, disability, sexual orientation, gender identity, marital status, economic status, and national origin. And we affirm the right of every person to live peacefully and without fear. And we will fight and resist at every step discrimination and harmful policies, whatever their source. We also stand in support of our county public school systems, both RBB and MCCSC.
Great, thank you so much. Next is department update. And we have first the health department, Ms. Cowell. Good morning.
Good morning. I want to start today with vaccines. That still seems to be the hot topic of the week. As of yesterday, we had 60.9% of our eligible population fully vaccinated. Again, not as high as we would like it. What I am pleased about is that has been very, very slow in the last few weeks, but it's increasing a little bit quicker than it has been. So that's encouraging. I will say that most of our demand for vaccine right now is coming from boosters, people wanting to get their booster vaccine. So we do encourage people to do that. If you are eligible for your booster, please do make an appointment to get that. But first and foremost, if you have not yet started your vaccine series or you started it and didn't get your second dose, please consider finishing that or completing that vaccine. You can get your vaccination through a variety of places, pharmacies, your healthcare provider, the public health clinic, mobile clinics throughout the state. We've done several school clinics throughout. So visit ourshot.in.gov. And if you can't use that website, you can call 211 and they can help you find an appointment. The FDA did meet yesterday to review data on the Pfizer vaccine for 5 to 11-year-olds. And with that committee is called VRBPAC. And with their approval, that goes to the CDC's ACIP committee, which is the Advisory Council on Immunization Practices. And they are scheduled to meet November 2nd and 3rd. So we should have directions soon after that. And that is sort of assuming that all goes forward. Certainly we'll have directions, even if it doesn't, but it should be, the middle of next week or so, and we should know where we stand with Pfizer and children 5 to 11. Now, the Moderna has indicated that they have submitted or are submitting their information as well for review for children. Their age range is slightly different. It is 6 to 11. So nothing like making things a little bit more confusing for us, but we are hopeful that that will also be reviewed in the near future. Planning is and has been occurring. It continues to occur so that we are prepared to give the children their vaccinations once that's approved. So pediatrician's office will have vaccine available in the public health clinic. We have offered and plan to go back and do additional school clinics for those children 5 to 11. Pharmacies will have vaccine as well. And then we will assess what we need to do. If we need to set up some mass clinics a couple of days, we will certainly do that. In terms of metrics, Monroe County does remain in an official yellow advisory this week. And I want to be very clear, that's an official yellow advisory. However, we do have a little bit of good news. Our cases did drop below 100. And so that metric would move us from orange to yellow in that particular metric. And then in our positivity rate, we are blue. So as you know, we talk about each week, you've got to show a trend and that you're not just, it's not a fluke one week. So before we can move to a blue advisory, we will have to have next week, we'll also have to have similar kinds of numbers or improvement. So we remain in a yellow advisory, even though our numbers will look better, and that's a good thing. So we need to continue to see this downward trend. I do want to note that as we talk about that in the past, when we've been in this position, we have sometimes seen things go back a little bit before they come back down. So again, good news, but I don't want people to get too excited until we get there next week, because in the past we've seen, for instance, to drop below 100, next week we could be back up to 100, still be in yellow, and so on. So we'll watch that very, very carefully. What we want to see, our goal is to see moderate to low transmission, and that would mean less than 50 cases per 100,000. And to be in a blue advisory. So with that information and the downward trend that we're seeing, that is exactly why the Board of Health did approve extending the health regulations, and that's on your agenda later this morning. But we want to get to that goal of less than 50 cases per 100,000. So that's why they decided to ask you to extend that. You will see when you look at the map that we will be the only county that has a blue metric this week in terms of if you only look at our positivity rate. So there is some good news there. And only Blue County technically at that 0.5 blue. But again, that's not the official advisory, and I want to be really clear about that. This statewide trend in cases continues to decline, and the hospital cases statewide continue to decline. So those are good things. Delta does remain the circulating strain and the only variant of concern at this time. And the last thing I would leave you with is that, this weekend is Halloween, and we can celebrate and celebrate safely. So please pay attention to the safety guidance that's out there and have a very safe and happy Halloween.
Thank you so much, Ms. Cottle. Comments, questions? Commissioner Jones? You're muted.
Sorry, my dogs keep on making a big fuss. It's wonderful to hear about how well Monroe County is doing compared to the rest of Indiana. And I really think what that has to be attributed to is our mask ordinance and the fact that so many people have been compliant with it.
I agree.
Yeah. Commissioner Githens?
Yeah, I agree with Commissioner Jones, but I also was going to ask Ms. Cottle to talk about both flu shots and also people who who've gotten one brand of their regular vaccination and then get a different brand for their booster.
Certainly, thank you for that. So we are in flu season. The circulation right now is still very, very low. So that's good. And it means it's the perfect opportunity to get your flu shot now. It does take a couple weeks to build up that full immunity. And again, like any vaccine, it is not just intended to keep you from getting infection, but from also having severe disease or being hospitalized. So please make your appointment for your flu shot now. Again, public health clinic, your provider, your pharmacy, and you can get your COVID vaccine and your flu vaccine. They can be co-administered. So if you have an appointment at a pharmacy that has both, you can certainly get both. You just need to make sure that you make sure they know that you want both of those at the same time. That might be the trick. In terms of mixing and matching your boosters, that's at least what they're referring to it. If you completed your initial series with Pfizer, you certainly can get your booster dose of Pfizer, but if you go somewhere and they don't have Pfizer available, you can get Moderna or you can get J&J. So they can be mixed and matched and just kind of follow those guidelines. Johnson & Johnson, it is 2 weeks after or 2 months after your initial vaccination. But You don't have to get the same thing that you got in your initial series when you were fully vaccinated. So that's a great help. If you want to switch it up just because maybe you personally feel like that's what you want to do, you can make that request. But also if you get somewhere and they don't have what you originally got, don't worry about it. Just get the vaccine that is available.
Great, excellent. And for the Halloween time, we're encouraging people to be outdoors as much as possible, and that Halloween masks are not masks in terms of protecting one against the spread of COVID and spreading COVID. So, but it should be a nice warm day. So hopefully folks will be outside a lot, which should be great. Thank you so much. And we will see you again very soon. And next we have an update from Emergency Management, Ms. Petroline.
Morning. Good morning, commissioners. Good morning, people of Monroe County. I feel that about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I reported out that I was all bundled up, and I think I have been bundled up since then. I think fall is here. But I just have a few updates for you. Actually, I have quite a few statistics that I'd like to share. So if you just bear with me, I'm going to be looking at a couple different ways. As for our blood drives, I got a report out about last week. They collected 61 units of blood. And as of the beginning of this year, so 2021, we've collected 913 units, and that is approximately affecting 2,739 lives. So those are fantastic numbers. Now, we started this project back last year in 2020, and since the beginning of the project, we've collected 1,446 units, which is approximately affecting 4,338 lives. So that is a fantastic number, in my opinion. And at the bottom of this report, they were stating that this particular project that we are putting on here in Monroe County through the collaboration of the Board of Commissioners and Red Cross, that this drive has been so successful that they're using it as a standard across the state for other programs to strive for. And as I quote, "You've been pioneers for what a blood program should look like." So kudos to us, right? It's great news. I am so happy to be part of this. I think it's great. Thank you to all who have given thus far. But on that note, I want to make note that we are right now in the worst shortage of blood that we have had since 2015, and that is across the nation. So I very much want to encourage you to go out to our next blood drives. They're scheduled for November 3rd, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. and November 5th, 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. at the Northwest YMCA. Go on there on our website, co.monroe.in.us, click on that date, make an appointment, and please consider giving. Like I said, we're right now in a blood shortage, and there are people out there that really need our assistance. So I plan on going in there and making an appointment, so I hope you do as well. A second reminder is that make sure you sign up for those alerts. Again, you can go onto the main web page and find that megaphone. You click right on that, and you can put in your information on how you want to receive those alerts. They are ways for us to communicate about weather and different things that are going around in the community and COVID. And those are the most accurate information and the fastest way that you can get it. So please go on to our website and sign up for those. I also want to talk about a thing going around in the community at our Monroe fire departments. They are participating in trick-or-treating. So on Sunday, October 1st, it's Halloween, from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m., you can go to one of the stations that are listed on our website and actually get some candy and hang out with some of the fire personnel. So just those stations are station 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 29, and 39. I know that to most of us, those are just numbers. That's why I encourage you to go onto our website and find those addresses. because they're scattered across the county. So there is one close to you that you can go and take your little ones all dressed up in costume and grab some candy, and COVID precautions will be taken. And last but not least, this is the end of Fire Prevention Month. And the only tip I want to give today is that if you come across a fire personnel in our community, just go up and thank them for what they do. Those men and women, I know that we don't have many fires around here, thank goodness, but even on their downtime, they're constantly training and constantly learning best practices. So they're really working very hard to keep us safe. So again, if you see someone out and about, just thank them for what they do. And that's all I have. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thank you so much, Ms. Petroline. Comments, questions, Commissioner Jones?
I think we all very much feel thankful for our firemen. They work hard and do a great job, and occasionally even rescue kittens out of trees.
Sweet, yes.
Commissioner Giffens?
Yeah, thanks for keeping up with the blood drives. This is just so important for people.
Great. Thank you so much, Ms. Petroline. We appreciate you being here today,
Thank you.
as always. And next we have an update from Highway. Ms. Ridge, good morning.
Good morning. We are paving on Bar Road. That will be completed hopefully at the end of the day. We're trying to beat the rain that's going to come back in for us on tomorrow and Friday. So the guys have worked some long hours trying to get it done. It's working out great. If you haven't been on Leonard Springs South, we got that done recently in the last month, and that's turned out very well. I drove it yesterday. And then we will also still be doing Rock East Road. It's scheduled right now around November 9th. And then after that, we'll just be doing our typical pothole patching and winter tree work and getting trucks ready. We are set up for a snowplow training class because we have a lot of new employees. So we bring somebody in from Indiana LTAP so they know how to go out and plow the roads in a safe manner. Of course, you can't teach them on the hills of Monroe County, so that's a challenge for some of the new drivers. So yeah, we're just getting ready for winter months. So if you have any questions, again, if anybody has any complaints or requests for investigations of things to look at, you can go to the county website. We have a form you can fill out that comes directly to our department, and then we investigate it and get the repair done if it's within our means.
Great. Thank you so much, Ms. Ridge. Comments, questions, Commissioner Jones?
Yeah, I just really hope that once again this year we have very little need for our snow plows.
Me too.
Yeah. Commissioner Giffens?
Yeah, and is there some new equipment that you're using?
We, but dang COVID. So we have everything ordered that we can order at this point. Kudos to the commissioners and the council for the bond for new equipment for a new grader. We've been working with the vendor on that, and we're told it's a year out before we can even have delivery on that. The new mower that was purchased by last year's bond, we're still waiting on that. We're told it was ordered back in January. We're told that it should be here any day. But yeah, it's we can't thank you all enough for how you've helped the department with dump trucks and graders and hot boxes to make it easier on the guys. It just completely, you know, when you have really good working conditions and it shows that people care about those 30, 40 guys out there working in the roadway, it makes such a better place to work. So the guys compliment you every day on the conditions and how everything has improved. When we interview people, you know, word has gotten to them that, you know, we have better working conditions, better equipment than we've had in years. So the department thanks you so much for everything that you guys have done. We couldn't have done what we've done without you guys. So
Very sweet. Other comments or questions? Okay, we appreciate you, and we appreciate that you've kept everything going and kept those programs going, because we don't know what's needed, and that's been a huge help, is having you there and having your staff there to say, this is what we need, and we need it now, and we need this next year. And the planning is what makes a difference. So we appreciate you a ton. Thank you.
I agree. I agree. It takes a planning, and I think we've gotten there. So,
and then it takes a while to get caught up.
It does. I don't know that we'll ever be caught up.
No,
but.
never. But I did have a question about the Woodyard Smith Curry intersection. Is that has that mostly wrapped up for now, or where's that at?
So we will be doing utility work as much as we can, as much as weather permits, so that we can have a full construction season in 2022 to build the 2 roundabouts. It seems to be going really well. We meet with the utility companies every other week, try and keeping them on track, keeping them accountable, and it seems to have worked out really well. So we've also started this process on our sample road project to try and keep things moving in that manner also. But so far, there's a lot of utilities in that intersection. I think it would be Smithville that would finish up by March. So if we have good weather, they can continue to work, but it's our goal to have pretty much all the utilities out.
Keep an eye out on that area in an ongoing basis. And
absolutely.
Yeah, and for residents who are interested, if you go to co.monroe.in.us and look under infrastructure, you'll find where to report a pothole or a road hazard. Mm-hmm. You'll also see that all important ongoing updated list of all the locations where construction is taking place, or utilities seem to be the bulk of it every week, but where utility work is going on, and it's a great way to plan your week.
We do have our road closings and upcoming or just construction in the area list on there. I also, which quarterly I usually do, is there's a list on there of our infrastructure projects and our major projects, federal aid projects or bridge projects that's going on, kind of where that's at in a timeline. Some of them don't go to letting until fiscal year 2026, but we're under design and then right away. So I try and keep that list updated too. So that way everyone can see what the process is and the timeline on that list. So that's on our page also. So.
Excellent. Yeah, we appreciate the great communication with our residents. I know they appreciate it as well. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, next we have Eric Evans, Technical Services Director. Good morning.
Good morning. Can you hear me okay?
We sure can.
All right. I'd like to start out this morning by giving a quick shout out to my boy, Mark Hazelbaker, who is currently in the hospital recovering from emergency surgery. He's actually been very sick of a non-COVID illness and has not worked for close to a month now. But he, I believe, is expected to make a full recovery and should be back. But, you know, as you know, Mark is a beloved member of my staff. During the early weeks of the pandemic lockdown, we would not have gotten to where we got without his round-the-clock services and diligence. I mean, you know, he obviously cares a lot about the county and the people who work there. And I know that you guys as the Board of Commissioners love him like I do. So I thought you'd like to be aware. He's probably sitting in the hospital watching this meeting because that's a hobby of his. He likes watching the public meetings, which I always think is a little bit weird, but that's his thing. So anyway, let's send some good energy to Mark. Hope he gets recovered. And we're thinking about you, buddy. So today is the final presentation of Cybersecurity Month. I have a visual aid that I'm going to share here. Can you see that okay? Okay. We've been talking about social engineering a lot. This is a one-page list of social engineering red flags. I will be sending this out via email, and I believe I'll probably post it somewhere on the website. This page contains a lot of really important information. I just want to really quickly go through a couple of the highlights. in the from field, when you get an email in the from field, if you're getting an email that is from someone that you don't normally receive email from, maybe someone in your organization that you don't normally have communication with, that is a red flag. Let's see here. On the to field, if you are being mixed in on a list of people you typically are not on, that is also a red flag. On the hyperlinks, this is a big one. So a lot of these social engineering, spam, malware emails will have hyperlinks, and they're trying to get you to click on that hyperlink. You can have the link appear to go to one place, but when you click on it, it actually goes someplace else. And that's what they're talking about here. So if you do get an email and you are thinking about clicking on a link in that email, and your gut is telling you that there's something that may not be right with it, before you click on that link, mouse over it, put your mouse cursor over it. And almost all web browsers and email readers now, when you do that, will pop out the address that link is actually going to go to. Quite often, it'll say something like Bank of America or some standard corporate website. But then when you mouse over it, you'll see this big, long link going someplace bad and dark where bad things are going to happen. So that's one thing that anyone watching this program can do to protect themselves. Also, attachments. Does the email contain an attachment that you did not expect? And is it an attachment that's a dangerous type, like a .bat file or a .exe file, something that could be used to run malicious code on your computer? You want to be aware of that. On the content of the email, of course, bad grammar is always, that's the one that always, I can always spot that because, growing up, I did a lot of reading, I read a lot of books. And so I can spot, I sometimes use bad grammar accidentally, but I can always spot bad grammar in an email, and I judge you all for it. Also, the uncomfortable gut feeling. I mean, after a while of being in the workforce and having seen a bunch of these emails, you develop an innate skill to sniff these things out, and always listen to that gut feeling, and investigate something before you go ahead and click on it. I'm going to wrap up there. Again, I'm going to post this page so that folks can get it. I'm going to compile all 4 of my visits with you guys and post that to the county YouTube. Next week, I'm going to be having an hour-long presentation that will also get posted to the county YouTube. So if you're part of the general public and want to follow along with that, feel free to check out the county YouTube and watch that. There's none of these tips are exclusive to life at the county. It's applicable to anyone who uses email, who uses the web, and it's important stuff to know. Any questions?
Let's see if there are. Thank you so much, Mr. Evans, by the way. Great information as always. Comments, questions, Commissioner Jones?
Yeah, just thank you. It is great information, and a lot of people need to be hearing it. I also, if Mark Hazelbaker is watching today, I want him to know that we very much miss him and hope that he has a very speedy and complete recovery.
Yes, we definitely have missed him in the office. His contribution is I can't even describe his daily contribution to what we do. Yeah. So we look forward to getting him back.
Commissioner Giffens?
Yeah, my best to Mark also. And I was going to ask Mr. Evans, did you find a home for the stray cat?
The stray cat situation yesterday. I did not realize the effect that email was going to have on people. I was flooded with people wanting to give a home to that stray cat. One of the advantages of working for the county is we have our own animal control department. And one of the animal control officers went and checked the cat for a chip. I don't know what the result of that was. But yes, I was flooded with people that wanted to give that cat a forever home. I visited it. for a couple of minutes, and there was a steady stream of people that wanted to put their name in the hat to get a free, to get a forever home for a kitten. So yes, definitely, it was cute.
Yeah. And yes, a huge shout out to Mark Hazelbaker. Get well soon. We need you back. We miss you and we're thinking of you. Yeah, excellent. Thank you so much, Mr. Evans. Let's see if there are any other departments that have an update to offer. Do not see any. So with that, we'll move on to our next item, which is public comment. This is public comment for items that are not on our agenda. Just raise your hand on the Zoom screen or *9. You will be limited to 3 minutes per person, and you will hear a sound at 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Thank you, Ms. Dayton. And when you hear that sound, that means you have 30 seconds to wrap up your ideas or thoughts. The same 3 minutes time limit applies as well to our regular agenda items, public comment that we take on regular agenda items. Again, this portion of the meeting is for public comment on items not on our agenda. And it looks like we have a couple of hands up. The first we have is Jim Hicks. If you could verify that that is who you are, and also tell us whether or not you are a Monroe County resident.
Hey everyone, this is Jim Hicks. Just wanted to make sure you could hear me okay.
We can.
Awesome. I am a Clear Creek Township property owner down here. And first off, thank you so much for your service as commissioners. Greatly appreciate it. I just wanted to quickly request that the Monroe Fire District monthly meetings be included on the Central County website as a convenience to all of our new township members who have joined over the last couple of fiscal years. I think that would be a great convenience to them. And I know that there are a lot of people who look at the Central website and don't necessarily drill down into the Monroe Fire District website. So thanks for your consideration of that.
Great, thank you. I believe that those are on our calendar, but I'm going to verify that and we will work through that.
Thank you so much.
Sure. And next we have Natalia Galvin. Just verify your name and let us know if you're a Monroe County resident, please.
Hello, my name is Natalia Galvin and I am a Monroe County resident. I'm also the 9th District Chair of the Indiana Latino Caucus, and I do a lot of statewide work. I'm here to comment on the expansion of Election Central and advocate for the entirety of the Johnson Hardware building for the county clerk. We are entering the 4th month of public comment on this issue, and what I find most troubling is the lack of support for another elected female official. I'm involved in statewide organizing and have asked my friends and acquaintances in both parties in all parts of the state if their clerks have to face similar struggles with space management with their commissioners, since the county clerk's responsibility is statutory. Their clerks do not have 5 spaces to manage. Their clerks do not have this issue. Regardless of party, their county clerks are supported by their commissioners. I'm embarrassed to tell them that our advocacy is now on the 4th month. I end by asking for clarity on why alternate locations are not a reasonable solution for the other potentially impacted departments when Showers is also easily accessible and a great office space. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Abby. Please verify your name and whether or not you're a Monroe County resident.
Yes, my name is Abby Ang. I'm a former Monroe County resident, but also the outgoing vice president of Monroe County National Organization for Women. And I just wanted to say in my capacity as vice president, that I was very disheartened about what happened last week, and I'm in support of Clerk Brown and the Monroe County Black Dem Caucus's statements about the respect that must be afforded to her. That said, this is an opportunity to move forward and learn from that. So I urge commissioners now to set forth their position on expansion of Election Central. And I would also like you to clarify what you've done to assess the impact and accessibility of satellite locations for people of color and people with disabilities, among others, for the locations you have suggested. Thank you.
Thank you. And next we have Amy. If you could verify your name and note whether or not you're a Monroe County resident.
Good morning. This is Ami Gandhi. I am a Monroe County resident, and I'm senior counsel at Chicago Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights, a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization where I lead our organization's effort to protect voting rights in Illinois and Indiana. And again, I reside here in Indiana in Monroe County. The right to vote is fundamental to a healthy democracy. Our voting rights practice area works to reduce barriers to voting and civic participation, especially in communities of color and low-income communities. Hoosiers called us in record-breaking numbers during the 2020 primary and general elections, with many of them experiencing barriers to registering and voting, worse than barriers than we see in other states. We've listed for you all before past experiences reported by Monroe County voters, ranging from confusion about the voter registration process to questions about absentee ballots, questions from people who have recently moved. And it's really important that voters get the assistance and space and in-person contact that they need in the instance of coming upon such questions, because it can make the difference of whether an eligible voter goes through with the process or gets frustrated or feels turned away. Disenfranchisement or suppression of voters does not occur only by poll taxes or literacy tests, and long lines and lack of space can really be the modern day form of disenfranchisement that are uniquely faced and disproportionately faced by voters of color. We've heard voters express concern that the current election central location does not provide adequate space to house all of the board's current election-related processes. And when it comes to satellite voting locations, I do want to say a quick word about that. My presumption is that it will take some additional steps led by the election board, the expert election administrators that we have in our county, for them to come to some bipartisan agreement on plans for additional satellite polling locations. As a nonpartisan voting rights advocate, I urge them to undergo that planning, as it is indeed a voter access issue. However, I don't see why that presumably forthcoming planning on the part of the election board should stand in the way of allowing Election Central to be appropriately expanded to respect voters' rights. The restricted election system in Indiana poses particular threats to people of color, including Black, Latino, and Asian American citizens. Now is the time to find creative ways to accommodate the increasing number of citizens who are taking an interest in voting, rather than to be caught unprepared when voters want to participate in our democracy. The time is ripe for local communities to invest in resources to strengthen election systems, such as planning appropriate space for voters and election administrators alike. Thank you.
Thank you, Ami. Is there anyone else that wishes to offer comment? Do not see any, and I will note for the record for Jim Hicks that indeed the Monroe Fire Protection District Board meetings are on our county calendar, including the link to the Zoom to see the meetings via Zoom. The next one is November 10th, beginning at 6 p.m. And so with that, we will move on to our regular agenda items.
Move approval of the minutes for October 20th, 2021.
Sorry, second.
We have a motion and we have a second. Any additional comments, corrections, additions? All right, Mr. Cockrell, will you please call the roll on The approval of the minutes for October 20th, 2021.
Commissioner Thomas,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner Githens.
Yes.
Motion is approved, 3-0.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Move approval of the claims docket, accounts payable October 27th, 2021.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, and we have Mr. Miller here to tell us all about it. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. The total for claims was $4,354,969.44. It was a rather smaller docket this time around, I believe 7 pages, and it really was 2 items that made up that sum of money. The first of those was $3,948,267.22 for local income tax, or LIT, for October. And of that amount of money, $958,531.63 were specifically for public safety LIT. And the other item making up that majority was $337,204.31 for food and beverage tax distribution for September.
Great. Thank you so much. Comments, questions? Commissioner Jones?
No, I don't.
Commissioner Githens?
Well, first of all, it's good to see you back this week. It's encouraging that the food and beverage tax is that healthy. It really is.
Definitely. I couldn't agree more.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you. Let's see if there's any public comment on this item. Raise your hand on the Zoom screen or *9, and you will have a 3-minute limit. I do not see any public comment on this item. So Mr. Cockrell, will you please call the roll on approval of claims docket accounts payable October 27th, 2021.
Commissioner Thomas,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner Githens.
Yes.
Motion is approved, 3-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now we'll move on to new business.
Move to approve the fixed capital asset category threshold adjustment.
Second.
We have a motion and we have a second, and we have Ms. Horace here. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you so much for allowing me to present today. Today, I'll be presenting on behalf of the Internal Control Oversight Committee. We are seeking approval for adjusting the Monroe County fixed capital asset threshold for our machinery and equipment category. Now, this category was one of the lowest, including other than the federal items purchased through a federal grant, which is also currently $5,000. But we wanted to adjust this amount to $75,000 to better demonstrate and show the asset items, the larger ticket asset items within this category. Things such as a mower that was accumulated for only $5,000 is on the list, also with things such as solar panels. And we believe that this will be better managed by the maintenance department, who has much more hands-on work with those items. So these items will still be managed, but within the maintenance department instead of by myself within the auditor's office.
Excellent. Great idea. Thank you for bringing this forward. Comments, questions, Commissioner Jones?
Yeah, that was a great explanation of it. Reading the packet was a little bit confusing, but you clarified it quite a bit. Thank you.
Commissioner Githens?
Yes, I had to find out what this was all about earlier in the week, so thank you.
All right, thank you so much for being here and for explaining that so well. And let's see if there's any public comment on this item. Raise your hand on the Zoom screen or press *9 if you're on the phone. Okay, seeing none, we'll come back for a vote. Mr. Cockrell, will you please call the roll on the fixed capital asset category threshold adjustment?
Commissioner Thomas,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner Githens.
Yes.
Motion is approved, 3-0.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, next item, please.
Move to approve Indiana Archives and Records Administration Contract, Fund Name County General, Fund Number 1000, in the amount of $24,500.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, and we have our treasurer, Ms. McClellan, here to tell us all about it.
Good morning, commissioners. This is a contract with the Indiana Archive and Record Administration Office to convert tax duplicate books, which are on paper, to microfilm. They are permanent records, and once they're converted to microfilm, we can destroy the paper copies, which would be considered the duplicate copy. And that will give us a lot more storage space. Right now, they're being stored down in the basement. So we're going to get that taken care of. It'll start, the process will start this year and carry on through 2022.
Excellent, great. Comments, questions, Commissioner Jones?
Yeah, the more often this can happen, the better. Storing these mountains of paper does become a little problematic.
Commissioner Githens?
Yeah, I had a question. I'm sorry I didn't email you about this earlier in the week. They're putting it on microfiche, but are they also going to do other electronic backups of it or what?
Microfilm is more secure than an electronic backup. I'm not doing a PDF version of it. We're going to get a duplicate copy of the microfilm to keep in the recorder's office. And the original microfilm will be kept at the state's secure storage facility where they up at the state office. And that's the process that was recommended by the IARA. We do have electronic records of tax duplicates that are from more recent years. And eventually those electronic records will have to be converted to microfilm because electronic records are not considered a permanent, electronic is not a permanent storage medium for records, only microfilm is.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it is really interesting because I've worked with microfilm and the research side in history, and they get brittle, they break, there's a lot that happens, but this is the state, this is what the state wants us to do, and that's what you're doing, and I appreciate your diligence in making sure you're following state guidelines. All right, and let's see if there's any public comment on this item. Raise your hand in the Zoom screen. Or *9. I see none. So with that, Mr. Cockrell, will you please call the roll on the contract with Indiana Archives and Records Administration?
Commissioner Thomas.
Yes.
Commissioner Jones.
Yes.
Commissioner Githens.
Yes.
Motion is approved, 3-0.
Thank you. All right, next item, please.
Move to approve ordinance 2021-55, park surplus property.
Second.
We have a motion and we have a second, and we have Mr. Robertson here to tell us all about it.
Yes, good morning, everybody. Can you hear me?
Sure can.
Perfect. So this surplus request is for our old Harley rake. Our park board approved the surplus last Wednesday. We recently, I say recently, it's been about 6 months ago, purchased a new Harley rake. It was just an overall upgrade for our department, and just got word that we are expected to get that this week. So that's great. But our old one, it's still in working condition. We've been in communication with Richard Small Engine. They're interested in purchasing it. But as far as the surplus request itself, fairly straightforward, but I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
All right. Comments, questions, Commissioner Jones?
No, I don't.
Commissioner Githens?
No, just thanks for including the picture of what you wanted to surplus.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It always helps.
Yeah. And there seems to be a lot of these items, but they are part of what we're required to do at this point. So, but appreciate your explanation and bringing this forward. See if there's any public comment on this item. Seeing none, Mr. Cockrell, will you please call the roll on the ordinance 2021-55?
Commissioner Thomas.
Yes.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner Githens.
Yes.
Motion is approved, 3-0.
And next item, please.
Move to approve Indiana University Ertl Institute for Parks and Public Lands Service Agreement. Fund name, County General, fund number 1000, in the amount of $30,000.
Second.
We have a motion and we have a second, and John Robertson is here with us again to tell us all about it.
Yes, so this service agreement is with IU Ertl Institute, Parks and Public Lands, sorry. So this is for the development of our 5-year master plan. Is a critical component for our department due to the fact that you have to have a 5-year master plan in order to be eligible for both federal and state aid that's administered through the Department of Natural Resources, which we've been fortunate enough to receive several of those grants over the last decade or more. So that in of itself explains its importance, but it helps us more or less provides a framework for strategic planning for our department, both short-term and long-term. So just a very important plan for us to have developed. Admittedly, I was not with the department the last time that we worked with Ertl, but I was in the planning, at least. I was there closer towards the end of the process and can say that they're great to work with. We're looking forward, hopefully, to working with them again. So again, I'm happy to answer any questions about the master plan itself or with Ertl.
Great, thank you so much. Comments, questions, Commissioner Jones?
Yeah, our employees are so good at getting grants. It's a very good idea to make sure that they can continue to do so.
Fingers crossed that continues.
No pressure.
Yeah.
Commissioner Githens?
Yeah, and their offices are just around the corner from you, right? So it's really nice to be able to have that kind of collaboration with people right on site.
Yeah, especially through the last process, it was a huge benefit just to be able to walk. Now it would be down the stairs. Our office is still being renovated, but yeah, it was just right around the corner.
Yeah. All right. Let's see if there's any public comment on this item. Just raise your hand on the Zoom screen. Okay, seeing none, Mr. Cockrell, will you please call the roll on the motion to approve the Indiana University Ertl Institute for Parks and Public Land Service Agreement?
Commissioner Thomas,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner Githens. Motion is approved, 3-0.
Thank you. And our next item, please.
Move to approve Rec Desk LLC service agreement. Fund name, County General and Cumulative Capital Development. Fund number 101138 in the amount of $6,800.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. John Robertson again.
Rec desk is a tongue twister. I think I've gotten used to it at this point. But we are in the process of working with the technical services department and transferring the content of what I call our auxiliary website, which handles most of our reservations, our payment transaction, facility scheduling, things like that. We're moving the content of that page to the county's website. So in doing that, we're kind of left without the ability to manage those online transactions, do the program scheduling, facilities, and other things of the sort. Rec Desk is a recreational management software that will allow us to continue doing that. And the majority of our registrations and payments nowadays are done online. So again, I think it's very important that we have that tool made available to the community. So once again, happy to answer any questions. I guess I should also point out too that in working with TSD, the cost of this is shared. So technical services will be paying $4,800 of it. We will be paying $2,000, and the agreement itself is just for use of this software. So it'll be an annual agreement. But yeah.
Thank you. Comments, questions? Commissioner Jones?
This sounds like a good plan.
Commissioner
Yes,
Giffen?
important.
I know one of the things that the Parks Board appreciates is the fact that you can do some of these kinds of what they refer to as younger people's responsibilities. So thank you, John.
Oh, the mantra with something like Rec Desk is working smarter, not harder.
Yeah. And this is something that we had initially seen as a proposal for our bond, and it got moved off of that, which I think is fine. It's not terribly expensive, but the appreciate technical services working with you, and I think it's great that it's coming back to the main website where it belongs. And Cumulative Capital Development Fund is the fund that is supposed to be for capital projects that's controlled by the commissioners, but we've seen more and more of it moving toward being used for software, which is totally legitimate and it makes sense, but it also leaves us unable to oftentimes purchase or pay for capital improvement projects, which is why we've been relying on the bond so much recently. So just a little background for folks who may be interested. Let's see if there's any public comments on this item. Seeing none, Mr. Cocker, will you please call the roll on the Rec Desk LLC service agreement?
Commissioner Thomas,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner Githens.
Yes.
Motion is approved, 3-0.
Okay, thank you so much. Next item, please.
Move to approve Trailhead Labs, Inc. service agreement. Fund name, County General and Parks Non-Reverting, fund number 1000 and 1179 in the amount of $15,000.
Second.
Great. We have a motion and we have a second, and John Robertson's here again, or still, to tell us all about it.
Yep. So this is another software. So the service agreement is with Trailhead Labs, but it's actually for a product called Outer Spatial. So Outer Spatial is what started as a mobile application, but is now a mobile and web-based application that will allow us, the Parks Department, also the county, to do a lot more with our trails and parks and incorporate that into community engagement. So the app more or less allows us to provide interactive maps of both the parks and trails. One of the benefits to having an app, especially on trails, which for us are, kind of outside of the city limits, maybe the cell phone reception somewhat limited. You don't need cell phone reception in order to use the app itself. So you've got access to maps of the trails, trailheads, parks, things like that, without needing reception. So that's a big benefit. Through this app, we're also able to push things like brochures, facility information, program information, and then events as well. So it'll be big for us. And again, like I said, community engagement, just community awareness. So I personally am excited about it. But other than that, I will point out that part of this is funded in support from a Duke Energy Foundation grant that we have that's being housed by our foundation. And that expense will be reimbursed to our department. So that was 10,000 of the total 15.
All right. Thank you so much. Comments, questions? Commissioner Jones?
Yeah, I'm sure people are going to very much appreciate this app. It'll make the parks and trails a lot more accessible and easy to use.
Yeah, I will also note, that the city of Bloomington utilizes this same mobile application. So for example, when you're on the Clear Creek Trail or the Limestone Trail, ideally we'll be able to move from one trail to the next without having to switch applications on your phones. So that'll be a big plus as well.
Commissioner Gibbons?
Yeah, it might even inform people of county trails that they've never been on. And I think that's fabulous. So thank you.
Yeah, that's great. Appreciate the work that went into this, and it's a good idea. Let's see if there's any public comment on this item. Don't see any. So with that, Mr. Cocker, will you please call the roll on the Trailhead Labs Inc. service agreement?
Commissioner Thomas,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner Githens.
Yes.
Motion is approved, 3-0.
Thank you so much. And next item, please.
Move to approve COVID-19 health regulation extension.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, and Ms. Cottle has been patiently standing
Yes,
by.
I
Tell
mentioned
us all
this
about it.
earlier in my updates. So the Board of Health met on the 21st, and they have been meeting regularly at least once a month. They meet again mid-November. But on the 21st, they looked at the current regulation, which was set to expire on the 31st, or when we met certain goal. And that goal was to have cases per 100,000 drop below 50 and to be in a blue advisory. So we were not there as we had hoped. And I mentioned to you this morning, we're still not quite there. So the Board of Health wants to get there. And that is all based on the CDC's recommendation that communities that have a substantial or high level of community spread should be masking when indoors in public places, regardless of their vaccination status. So that's why this went into effect. We're requesting that it be extended until we reach the goal. They did not put an end date on it because we hope that we're pretty close to that. Again, as I said earlier, who knows, no crystal ball here, but we hope that we will be there soon. The Indiana Department of Health updates the metric map, which will show where we are. They do that on Wednesdays by 5 p.m. So the recommendation was to have this expire at midnight or 11:59 p.m. On the Wednesday that we reach the goal. And that will allow us to confirm that we've reached it, to send out a press release so that we can get notice out to people. I'll be able to tell you that Wednesday morning, hopefully, that it's coming, and we can give everybody a little bit of advance notice. And we won't have places, some stopping at 9 a.m. and some stopping at 2 p.m. and all of that. So that's what this request is. I would just say that when it does expire, it does not mean that masks are still not recommended or don't have a place, and that certainly if you are unvaccinated, you should continue to be masking when you are around others, whether we have a regulation in place or not. So just to add that little caveat there, this is just about the regulation. So on behalf of the Board of Health, we hope that you will approve this extension.
Great, thank you so much, Ms. Cottle. Comments, questions, Commissioner Jones?
Yeah, I think most of the residents of this community are very, very anxious for to be able to no longer be required to wear masks, but it is going to take some cooperation to get there. So please do continue to wear your masks for the time being and also get vaccinated.
Commissioner Githens?
Yeah, and I know that people have heard me say this before, but we've heard from businesses who say that they appreciate having the mask sort of mandate in place. It keeps their employees on the job. And without that, things will shut down again. It's just, everybody is just working at sort of at the edge. And I've also talked with people in other counties who actually come here to shop because they feel safer. So
yeah,
it's a boost to the business.
It is. And I will tell you that talking to other counties, because as far as I know, we are the only county with a current mask requirement. There are other counties who would like to have it, other county health departments, health officials who would like to have it, but they do not have the support that we have from our elected officials.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, and apologize for Ollie in the background there, and we'll get Lee's dogs going as well. But I did want to note for folks that this is another great reason to sign up for our resident alert system, because that information will go out on the resident alert system. So folks will know when we're finally going to get past at least the mask mandate. But I appreciate the point that if you're not vaccinated, you should still be masked no matter what level we're at, and just please get vaccinated, and that will save us all a lot of energy and time. Nobody likes wearing masks, but if you don't, get vaccinated and encourage others to do so. Excellent. Thank you so much. And thank you again to Dr. Sharp, the Board of Health, and all of your staff and all the hard work that's gone into this. It's been 18 months since this started. It feels like a lot longer in a lot of ways. And just throughout all of this, you've just been a consistent voice of reason and science and data. And we so appreciate the guidance and the help that we're getting from you. So thank you. Let's see if there's any public comment on this item. Raise your hand in the Zoom screen. Seeing none, we'll come back to the board. Mr. Cockrell, will you please call the roll on the COVID-19 health regulation extension?
Commissioner Thomas.
Yes.
Commissioner Jones.
Yes.
Commissioner Githens.
Yes, and I would also like to point out that this has helped keep the population down at the hospital as well.
Motion is approved, 3-0.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Next item, please.
Move to approve Anthem contract renewal. Fund name, self-insurance, fund number 4700 in the amount of various quantities.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, and we have Elizabeth Sensenstein here to tell us all about it. Good morning.
Good morning, commissioners. This is our plan renewal for the 2022 plan year. It's the last piece of our puzzle before we do open enrollment next week. The things that I sent you were the benefit summaries for all three plans. There's no changes to those. The rates did go up slightly, and I sent those out to employees a couple weeks ago. The stop loss agreement had a slight increase of 5% to that specific stop loss. Everything else remained the same. The administration fees are the same. And then the pharmacy formulary that I sent you it's a constantly changing document based on what Anthem can work out with those drug manufacturers. And I was told that that can change every January and July. So it's something they're constantly working on. And I just also wanted to say Angie's done, I know Angie Purdy's not here today, but she did a great job trying to make sure that our rates stayed low and really working with Anthem and Apex to keep things relatively cost effective for us we were lucky enough to not have any changes last year, and we kept those rates the same and have just a slight increase this year.
Yeah, excellent work. Thank you. Comments, questions, Commissioner Jones?
Yeah, thank you, and Ms. Purdy for doing all this work. It's very important to the employees, and I'm not sure anyone really likes having insurance.
Yeah, Commissioner Githens?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thanks so much. All right, so we appreciate all the hard work that went into this, and you answered the one question I had, so thank you for doing that, which is when those rates can change. Excellent work, and it does take a lot of folks, a lot of work, and a lot of energy to create a really good health insurance plan for our employees, and certainly appreciate everyone's efforts on that in that regard. And let's see if there's any public comment on this item. Okay, seeing none, Mr. Cockrell, will you please call the roll on the Anthem contract renewal?
Commissioner Thomas,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones, Commissioner
Yes.
Githens. Motion is approved, 3-0.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, next item, please.
Move to approve Monroe County Public Library Agreement for 2022 Community Access Television Services. Fund name, Cable Franchise, Fund number 2502, in the amount of $297,951.
Second.
Was that a second?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Second. Yeah. I have to look at my other screen to be able to see. Yeah.
It was a little muted. I want to make sure. All right. So with that, Mr. Cockrell, please tell us all about it.
Yeah, this continues our partnership with the library to host meetings, various county meetings, including this one, and the Redevelopment Commission is another one. We've had this agreement in place for a very long time. The cable franchise fee is funded by essentially cable companies and viewers of televisions and the fees they pay associated with that. So historically, the county has always felt that that was an appropriate place to pay for these kind of television services. I don't know if you have any questions, but it's been a long-standing great partnership with the library and the CATS TV to make sure the public has access not only live, but the archives for meetings as well.
Yeah. Comments, questions, Commissioner Jones?
Yeah, this is a really wonderful service that CATS provides, and I'd like to thank them for it.
It's amazing how quickly they get the meetings up too if you go into the archives the next day. And I have used them as I go back to review things from our own meetings even. So I really appreciate having that so easily accessible and so quickly.
Yeah, CATS is amazing, great to work with. We miss seeing them in the courthouse and our meetings in the Nat U Hill room, but absolutely appreciate all the hard work that goes on behind the scenes. And it's a great part of the transparency of county government to have all of our meetings on CATS and in that archive. So excellent work. All right, with that, let's see if we have any public comments on this item. Seeing none, Mr. Cockrell, will you please call the roll on the Monroe County Public Library Agreement for 2022 Community Access Television Services?
Commissioner Thomas, Commissioner Jones.
Yes.
Commissioner Githens.
Yes.
Motion is approved, 3-0.
You. Next item, please.
Move to approve the American Rescue Plan Act policy.
Second.
We have a motion and we have a second. Please tell us all about it, Mr. Cockrell.
Well, I think you guys looked at this very thoroughly last Wednesday. I would report that I presented it to the county council last night. And I don't think they had any surprises from it because this list of projects is associated with conversations the commissioners and the council have had since the announcement of this type of funding last night. And if you wish, again, I would go through. There are kind of two different sections to projects on this, and that seems to be where everybody is extremely interested in for exactly the right reasons. There's a priority section that are proposed to be funded, and then there's a priority section on, hey, here's what we're looking at, but they're not really ready to be funded yet. And I said this at the council meeting, I'll say this every time anybody asks me about it. This is a living, breathing document. What is on this today will change, and it will change primarily in the priorities that we're not quite ready for funding. We'd like to fill those gaps in, make them more detailed, get a better understanding, and then move them to the area where the priorities ready for funding. So the two priorities ready for funding are the lost revenue section. We had our consultant do that and for 2020, our last revenue was $2,465,587.85. Much like I explained to the council last night, that is a category of funding now within the ARPA money, which can be appropriated for a variety of things beyond the scope of the direct funding aspects of the ARPA program. It doesn't get moved to a fund, but it is there for an appropriation that may fall outside those fairly stringent requirements that are in the ARPA fund. And it was very appreciated that the federal government recognized that we need money due to lost funding so that we can continue our current aspects of our business. The second was the Housing Insecurity Initiative funding. And the council approved the letter of support for that last night, and I believe the commissioners had done that the previous week. That is, it has two components: a direct expense ARPA component of $1.2 million, and then another component of $1.2 million that would not necessarily be included in this area, but there was discussion last night of what the lost revenue or those kind of things. So it would still potentially be ARPA funding, but that question has not been reserved. And then we have 10 different areas where we want to look at. They all pretty much respond to either the negative aspects of the COVID-19 or some other items that are in that kind of we've seen we need to do better because of COVID-19. Maybe the one or two that fall outside that is the roadway and the stormwater aspects of that, because we've always known we've needed to improve on that. And this is just an additional way to fund those. But the remaining parts of that are, as it relates to the community gaps demonstrated in our criminal justice study that we received last summer. Support for public infrastructure, expanding broadband services, and then support for local working families, including childcare, support for the elder population, public health initiatives, including mental health, incentives for our employees who receive COVID-19 vaccines and can demonstrate that those have been had, and then funding assistance for first responders, law enforcement, health providers, and teachers. If you notice, when I went through that, I did not go through it in order, and I did that intentionally to demonstrate that these are not in any priority order. These are in order of, when they were put in the document and when they were first thought of. But, the process is going to determine which one of these gets funded. I told the council last night it would be a little surprising if all of them did, because we do have limited funding through the ARPA program, all concepts that we are wanting to explore, prioritize, determine exactly what we mean. And I use the funding supporting public health initiatives as my example, because that could be a lot of different things, right? So that's not tied down at all. But those are kind of the areas that we really want to focus on and try to figure out the best use of the funding. Again, if something came up in a year or two, I would just point back to 2 years ago, we were in a much different place, both as a local government and as a society, and this funding lasts longer than that time frame. So there may be changes even to that priority list. But once it get kind of to it's ready to be funded, I don't expect a lot of changes at that point. So if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer.
Okay, thank you so much. Comments, questions, Commissioner Jones?
Yeah, it's very exciting to be able to help support the Heading Home initiative, which Commissioner Givens has worked with much more closely than I have. So I'll let her comment on that. I would also say that I'm very hopeful that the broadband initiative will come along quickly for those of us who live in areas of the county with unreliable connections, which in a time of Zoom can become very annoying.
Commissioner Givens?
Yeah, I really applaud this list. There are certain things that I would love to see that we could fund indefinitely, like the child care support and things like that. But I think that we have been thoughtful about these things and will continue to do so. And I really do support what all we've got on here. So I'm pleased about this.
Yeah, thank you for all the work on this. And obviously, this is something we're going to continue to see revisions that will be made, and we'll continue to fund all these important endeavors and projects in our community. And so with that, let's see if there's any public comments. It looks like we have Councillor Hawk. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for working so diligently to make certain that we cover so many needs of the county. I want to just throw out my support in moving up as close to the top as we can get to provide assistance for childcare. Whether that be work with IB Tech so that we can get more childcare providers and get them some kind of recognition of the value that their service provides to the community, or just what we might do. We know we have some really great childcare providers, but when you have people who are driving to Bedford from here to place their child in a child care provider service that they can trust, and then trying to drive back here to get to work at perhaps 8 in the morning, that's just not acceptable, and we can and should do better. To me, this is not just supporting families, but protecting children, and also helping people get back to work. One of the things I thought of was perhaps working with the people who work downtown in the restaurant business or whatever for tourism. Could any of those dollars be connected in order that we can get people to return back to work in those tourism businesses? There's just a lot of ways, but especially we should consider helping our own county government employees who, when they're paying more for childcare than what they are paying for rent, then we have to do better. I think we can, and let's move that pretty close to the top. I sure would like to see that. That's my 2 cents.
Thank you. Looks like we have a lot of nods of agreement, and absolutely correct that there are still a lot of people who are not in the workforce, and most of those are women who have left the workforce and have been unable to come back due to childcare issues. So good point. Any other public comment on this item? Okay, seeing none, we'll come back to the board. Mr. Cocker, will you please call the roll on the American Rescue Plan Act policy?
Commissioner Thomas.
Yes.
Commissioner Jones.
Yes.
Commissioner Githens.
Yes.
Motion is approved, 3-0.
Excellent, thank you. Next item, please.
Move to approve Resolution 2021-57, Fleet Surplus Property.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Tell us all about it. Mr. Cocker, please.
Yes, we have 14 vehicles, mostly squad cars, but there are some from a few different departments that are no longer needed for service because we've been doing a much better job refreshing our fleet. And so we have these and they are ready to be surplused out. And I would note the last time I talked to Greg Crone, he said that now is a great time to be selling vehicles. So if we could get this surplus, we might actually get enough back that we have the ability, a little bit more flexibility to utilize and upgrade our fleet.
Yeah, excellent. Appreciate Mr. Crone on that as well. Comments, questions, Commissioner Jones?
It's just really good that we're able to upgrade our fleet and hopefully keep it that way.
Commissioner Githens?
I appreciate the fact that we're actually putting things on a rotation at this point and doing some planning. It's really critical.
Yeah, it's great. Yep, and this new management system is working out really well, and it's going to be paying benefits for the county. Let's see if there's any public comment on this item. Council Member Hawk, your hand is still raised. I don't know if you wanted to speak on this item.
Yes, I did. I received an email from the Soil and Water yesterday because I was questioning the salary amounts for the new person that they're have the grant for, and trying to just make sure those dollars work for her. But part of what she said was they were going to use a part of their other revenue, I think she said $5,000 because the person that will have this position, there's no money for a vehicle. So if there's any way that this might be helpful, just wanted to throw that out there, that we consider and maybe have a chat with them about that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Let's see if there's any other public comment on this item. Okay, seeing none, we'll come back to the board. Mr. Cockrell, will you please call the roll on resolution 2021-57?
Commissioner Thomas.
Yes.
Commissioner Jones.
Yes.
Commissioner Githens.
Yes.
Motion is approved, 3-0.
Right, thank you so much. I don't know if my colleagues would like a quick break before we move on to our last item, or should we just go forward? Move forward? Okay, all right. Item L, please.
Move to approve ordinance 2021-45, Worms Way Lot A rezone.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We have Ms. Bierman here to tell us all about it.
Good morning, commissioners. I'm Tammy Bierman, Senior Planner with Monroe Planning Department, and I'm going to share my screen and do a presentation for this one. Does everyone see the commissioner meeting title there?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I'll get started on this one. This is ordinance 2021-45, and it is a zoning map amendment to rezone a property from ag rural reserve to light industrial. It was also known in the Planning Commission world as REZ-21-3, the Worms Way Lot A rezone. It is 6.65 acres, and it is one lot within the Worms Way subdivision that is north of town in Washington Township, section 28. They are not asking to rezone the northern lot of that subdivision, to be clear. And it's located at 7850 North Wayport Road. So this is our current zoning map. It's currently zoned ag rural reserve. And you can see where other areas in green are zoned that as well. And then the ER is estate residential properties. We have a little bit of pre-existing business to the north, which also can encompass Oliver Winery up there. And then to the south is some limited business. I did note that we have some limited or light industrial zoning. The nearest is like 5.5 miles and 6.5 miles away. One thing, because this depicts it so well, is the Windsor private subdivision, and you may hear from some of the people from this neighborhood. This lot here is a common area that's platted. It is wooded. That is all through here, and that is kind of a buffer between this site and Windsor private neighborhood. So just something to note there. And these are the site conditions currently that we see. It is built out in a commercial manner. In 1995, there was a special exception that was granted by the Plan Commission and the BZA for agribusiness and greenhouse, which led way to Worms Way business. It's been vacant for about 5 or 6 years now, but it is very business oriented, which has been difficult for them to get something that fits within the ag rural reserve zoning use table to go in there. And it does have a commercial septic already on site, though that would be reviewed during site plan like a site plan review to make sure it's adequate. These are some of the site photos of the existing Worms Way site. And the aerial, and again, this upper right corner aerial shows this wooded lot that kind of goes through here, and just a little bit of the tip of the iceberg of that auto salvage yard that's just to the south there, up off of North Wayport Road. In 2019, there was a use variance to allow metal fabrication on the site. The person that went through that process opted to not purchase the property, but it did add that use as a permitted use in the Ag Rural Reserve zoning. A use determination was submitted to the planning department, and it was determined that this is really what they're wanting to do here are separate uses, two separate uses, which is multi-use, which fits more into the definition of a business or industrial center. That is permitted only in 3 zones, the GB, the LI, and the HI, and the petitioner has chosen to rezone to LI in this instance. And special condition 22 applies, which means that should we allow this use, this multi-use business or industrial center to happen, they would have to do a site plan approval and make sure that all of their parking, landscaping, fire retention, septic system, everything meets those standards for what they want to do there. We had a pre-design that we went over on some of their other options. We did, establish that a use variance was not an option in this case because of the multi-use component. They could also have maybe gone for a planned unit development, which is, it has its pros and cons, but it is pretty hard it is more complicated and may have been an over, it was presented as an option, I'll just say that. So the plan review committee actually heard this petition twice. They did ultimately give a recommendation of a 6-0 negative recommendation. And because it's really, they're reviewing it against our comprehensive plan. Comp plan was approved in 2012. And we have had several changes happen since then, which was the completion of I-69. We had Wayport Road, access road completed, and we now know where our interstate interchanges are, which is down there off of Sample Road. Some of the things they couldn't support because of the comp plan, but also they had concerns that this site is not on sewer and probably won't be for any time in the near future. There are also concerns about the residential neighborhood to the north and east there. But they did want to see a business using this existing commercial infrastructure that was already there in place. Within your packet, you'll see the letter from the petitioner, also the site plan that they've proposed. Well, and this is just a very general draft site plan. If this is approved, they would probably have to do a little bit of landscaping improvements, possibly fire retention. That has not been fully assessed yet. I included also the all of the permitted uses in the agricultural rural reserve zone, which is currently allowed, and then also the LI uses that are allowed also, and this includes the parking standards where they were listed. And again, highlighted here is the business or industrial center, which is the one that they are hoping to be able to utilize. Anything that's kind of in red, these are the uses that can be interchanged as a part of that business or industrial center use. And so I did a little small analysis of a small table showing the shift from anything in ag rural reserve uses from what currently is a lot of residential, which obviously this does not look like a residential site, to these more business, personal services, some retail, wholesale trade, manufacturing and mining type of uses. And then this table over here circles in yellow anything that would be allowed, numbers wise, under that multi-use component. Within the packet, there was a 4-page response that the petitioner submitted regarding wastewater and the processes that were there. Hopefully you had a chance to read through some of that. I'm not going to go over too much in detail. And then the planning department director had also submitted a page on just how we assess septic versus sewer, and you can't just look at a site and just it really is a case by case basis. And during the site plan reviews, when we really look at the appropriateness of, you know, the capacity of these septic systems and that sort of thing. I wanted to note that we did have some letters of opposition submitted as a part of this rezone, and there were 11 in total, one of which was from the Vice President of the Homeowners Association for Windsor Private. And you may, I think there are some people within the audience today that may want to speak on this. The Highway and Stormwater Department kind of reviewed this. Highway Department did not have an issue. In fact, that driveway had been upgraded during the North Wayport Road access. And then the MS4 coordinator did not have any immediate concerns and said that they would review the detention pond during site plan, and that usually if there is any industrial wastewater, it gets hauled off to a wastewater treatment plant per other environmental codes that are out there. So the Plan Commission heard this on October 5th, 2021, and they submitted a favorable recommendation to the County Commissioners with a vote of 7-0 with one condition of approval, and I'll read that here for the record. To submit a recorded written commitment as presented to the Plan Commission with the addition of the language, any proposed change of use must be approved by the Health Department to confirm the septic system capacity. And so with that, the petitioner has actually gone through with this written commitment. It was recorded October 18th, 2021. A couple of things I'll point out in this written commitment is section 3, where they reduced the amount of uses that would be permitted in the light industrial zone. And you know, this is the list here of things that they are willing to strike and not allow on this specific site here. And I will also point out section 4, which these were discussions all throughout our PRC meetings and Plan Commission meetings, and that they have agreed to that they will limit the workforce out there to a maximum of 25 employees to be assigned at any given shift. They're going to the production location, all production processes will be confined to the building. So no production processes will be allowed outside. And then per that condition of approval, we've added in here, or they added in here, that any proposed change of use must be approved by the Health Department to confirm septic system capacity. This is the third page of that written commitment. Staff went ahead and just did a little small assessment table of the light industrial zone. And this is exhibit 11 in the packet. So we struck out all of the various uses that, and this does include the 2 veterinary services. Those are struck out in the written commitments as well. And I also, just for simplification, got rid of some of these duplicative, not essential uses and did some analysis. So currently there are a total of 80 uses allowed in a light industrial zone. They have reduced that by 16. So it's more 64 uses now that they're proposing. And then looking at that business or industrial center multi-use component where you can interchange the uses for certain sections of the use table, there are 57 normally allowed, and they have reduced that by 10. So 47 uses would be interchangeable under that business or industrial center use. I'll just let you know that staff did recommend a denial of this rezone subject to the findings of fact, and where that really comes into play is with our comprehensive plan. Our comprehensive plan from 2012 listed this, you know, as more of a residential type of area, and it didn't match up. And so based on the findings, we were unable to lend support for this petition, but we do acknowledge that maybe our comprehensive plan needs some adjustments and may need to be, you know, updated now that we do have I-69 completed and we have our interchanges established with that road connection system. So with that, I'll take any questions that you might have on this.
All right, so first let's see if we have any questions for Ms. Bierman. Commissioner Jones?
Yeah, I'd just like to make sure that with the hazardous industrial or hazardous wastewater, that even if the property were sold for another use in the future, there are still requirements that could not just be, that would have to be hauled away to a licensed facility.
Right, and I think those come under item standards, possibly even OSHA standards. It's above and beyond what planning and zoning kind of enforces. So it goes more to a state level at that point, I think.
And then that wooded area that you pointed out, is that a part of this property or?
No, that is a platted conservation easement within the Windsor private subdivision. So it was set aside, it's platted, and it cannot be developed upon. So it will remain most likely wooded and untouched.
Very good. Thank you.
All right. Comments, questions, Commissioner Githens?
Yes. What happens if a future owner, I mean, you've talked about this a little bit with IDEM and OSHA, but what happens if a future owner violates all these commitments? I mean, what kind of enforcement does the county have?
For the written commitments, I mean, a lot of those are part of the use. So anytime that there is what staff determines as a change of use to the property, it triggers a site plan amendment. So we would be bringing them back in here to confirm that they're meeting the parking standards, landscaping, bioretention, and septic. We always look at driveway and septic before issuing permits for any changes to the site like that. And then with regards to the 25 cap on the employees, I mean, I'm thinking that we will be probably limiting the parking allowed out there. So the parking is not going to be able to expand. They may be able to add an additional building, but we may be, I think, limiting the amount of parking based upon this written commitment that's here. So that's the cap on the employees. Wastewater treatment or the septic for the health department review, that would go through a site plan amendment process. And then everything that's indoors, you know, if something's going on outdoors, I'm sure neighbors it would be a complaint-based issue at that point, I think. So I think that covers all of the written commitments that they've kind of stated.
And is there any concern about either light or noise kind of impingement on the area?
Right, chapter 802-4 states that, you know, they do have to meet a certain set of standards with regards to noise and light and that kind of thing. And we always have an engineer that signs off on that portion. I think by housing everything within indoors for their production will help with that. And then I will say that as a part of our site plan review, we do look at the lighting plan and we make sure that light does not spill over onto other properties by greater than 1 candle foot. Don't ask me what exactly a candle foot is. I just know to look for the number and make sure that it does, that there's that calculation doesn't spill over the property lines. So.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, so let's see if the petitioner or petitioner's representative wishes to speak. Just raise your hand. Joe Myers. Good morning. Joe Myers? Just need to unmute.
Sorry about that. You missed a great speech. Now, first of all, I'd like to thank all of you for your time and your efforts in this matter. And I don't think it'll do much good, but I would like to assure the homeowners in the area that we don't anticipate impacting their quality of life in any way. And that we've limited ourselves to the point where I'm not really sure how we could impact them. Other than the building staying vacant, I think that's probably the only thing that could impact them less. And then eventually it's going to start decaying, cause all sorts of problems, but then that would be a different issue. But that's all I have unless you have questions for me.
Right. Thank you so much. Any comments or questions from my colleagues?
Not right now.
Okay. All right. So with that, we will hear from those who wish to speak in favor of this proposal. Those who wish to speak in favor. Looks like we have Tammy. Can you provide your name and let us know whether or not you're Monroe?
Hi, yeah, this is Lance. Actually, Tammy was running behind. So I'm her husband and live here in Windsor private. And a couple things that concern me. Obviously, we just heard from the gentleman and he stated they do not anticipate any noise disturbance. Well, that's nice. We can't anticipate, but we need to know, yes or no. The other thing that bothers me is the fact that I think the question was just asked, have there been any concerns about noise or lighting? We've sent several letters in. Those are in there. So I don't know if you folks have read all of our concerns, but you know, we have realtors that live here. We've tried to go to the owners and we've had 2 separate churches that would like to lease those buildings. They were not interested. So the money is, you know, not a concern for the owners. So I want to make sure that that's clear. We've tried to work with them. The trees from the east, northeast, and basically the north, those trees are thin. So when you talk about a buffer zone, there's only one section when you look at that map, and it be in the southeast corner. It's a small section. We live out here in the country. We're by the highway. We want to keep it that way. The ordinances, when those buildings were built, should stay the same. That's the way it is. We can't go and just change things. And we've got, you know, what, 30-something homes here. And, you know, just we'd like to be listened to and have our concerns heard. And that's all.
Okay. Thank you. So again, this is for those who wish to speak in favor of the petition, although we've heard your comment, so we will consider it. Anyone else who wishes to speak in favor of this petition? Okay. Anyone who wishes to speak in opposition to this petition? Looks like we have Michael. Good morning. Give us your name and let us know that you're a Monroe County resident.
Yes, good morning, commissioners. Excuse me. My name is Michael Hostler. My husband and I live in the Windsor private area, and we definitely oppose this change in the zoning. Excuse me. We just feel it's not necessary to rezone this area to accommodate this one landowner. We feel it's obviously spot zoning. And this is going to benefit only one individual. This will not benefit the community, will not benefit the county. It will help this one person and one person only. That's the way we feel about it. We feel that there are plenty of areas in Monroe County that are already zoned light industrial that are vacant. And why do we need to turn every beautiful area and every residential area into yet one industrial area? Why change and go against the county master plan for this one individual? It just doesn't make any sense to us. It's been stated that the area changed because of I-69, but that's just not true. Wayport Road did not change whatsoever. We've been residents there since 2015. It has not changed. I mean, all it changed really was that it now says I-69, not State Route 37. It was 4-lane before. It's still 4-lane. Wayport was just part of the State Road 37. So that hasn't changed whatsoever. So there's no need for this change. It's still a rural area. It's a beautiful area, and that's one reason we moved here from California is because it is beautiful. Why change it for this one person? I mean, that's the way we're looking at it. I mean, there's been no effort by the current owner. And again, the owner and the petitioner are two different people. The owner's not speaking. This is the petitioner who may or may not buy this property. Who knows? There's been no effort, as you just heard from the other speaker, to actually find a purpose for it that would fit in the zoning. No effort at all. In fact, there's been statements around, well, it's a farming area. Well, it's not really zoned farming. Oliver Winery is in this area and it's zoned. That is not a farm. There's dozens and dozens of things you could use the property for within this zoning. And there's been no effort to do that. it also, let's be clear, there's lots A and B. We're talking, this is about A, but lot B is right next door. It's owned by the same person. And to me and myself and my husband, this is a Trojan horse. I mean, they're already advertising the other lot as an industrial lot. It's for sale right now for $2 million. I mean, they already assumed that the commissioners are going to go along with this and change it immediately. I mean, there's not, and also the restrictions are odd. It says, it's not saying here's what we can do, and we only limit these few things. It says, here are the things we can't do, all these other things, including having a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week, 365-day Amazon warehouse sitting there. There's nothing that prohibits them from doing that. I mean, so you'll end up with, trust me, you're going to end up with something very different ultimately than what's being proposed. I feel this is just a sneaky, underhanded way of changing a zoning for other purposes than those stated. I thank you respectfully for your time.
All right, thank you so much. Next, we have Lisa. If you give us your full name and let us know if you're a Monroe County resident, please.
Hi, yes, my name's Lisa Kinder, Monroe County resident, and I've lived in Windsor private for 21 years. My impression from the information in the packet given by Mr. Myers is while they stated a desired intent for the property, that it would be a medical device manufacturing, I don't really see any evidence that's been offered that they've secured contracts with any companies to support the business activity. And additionally, I've seen information that, well, if that doesn't work out, then we could maybe do storage at that facility, or we could look at doing this or that. So it kind of seems like a cart before the horse type of situation. I don't know how you can approve a change in zoning when you can't possibly determine the impact on the neighborhood. And if you change the zoning, that opens it up to so many other potential uses in the future with no idea of what impact those uses would have on Windsor private. And that's just my 2 cents on the subject, and thank you for listening.
Thank you. Next, we have Andrew. If you could give your full name and also let us know if you're a Monroe County resident.
Hi, good morning, Commissioners and Ms. Bierman. My name is Andrew Long, and I'm a Monroe County resident living in Windsor private neighbourhood, which is also Commissioner Giffen's district, I think. As a Monroe County resident and taxpayer and voter, I feel like our concerns on this rezoning position are being ignored. Many Windsor private neighbourhood residents have formally opposed this rezone request, and our concerns have just been basically ignored. Maybe not by Tammy, but by other people. Even the Monroe County Planning Department recommended against this rezoning. So there are many concerns here. One is, how is VJ team allowed to rezone a property they do not own? And the current property owners of Worms Way have tried this before, and it was previously denied. VJ team has said they're acting on behalf of the seller, but they also said on record that if they purchase the parcel, they will probably sell it again in a couple of years and probably make a lot of money if it's been rezoned. So there are 2 parcels owned here by the owner. And even before this request, the sellers are already advertising a second property as industrial, which is what Mike mentioned earlier. This rezone petition is for the smaller property, of course. And if this smaller property is rezoned, then there's going to be a precedent to later rezone the larger one as well. So that's the bigger problem, really. Then we could have some company like a 24/7 truck stop, or like Mike said, maybe even Amazon, who's currently looking for places in Bloomington. Amazon could move in with a mini warehouse for all their trucks, and they've got parking lot lights, and they've got truck traffic with reverse beeping going on all hours of the night and disrupting our peace and quiet. And Tammy mentioned a buffer around the property. And also, like Mike said, in the winter, there is no buffer. I mean, we can see the buildings from most houses. So our houses are very close to the property. And also Wayport Road is fairly quiet, really. And there are farmers with tractors. There are cyclists all the time. There's families on bikes sometimes. Having trucks speeding along there 24/7 will just destroy this area and be a risk, a safety risk for residents. So this is a residential and farming and rural area. It's not an industrial area. There are other choices that they can have. So VJT needs to look for a more appropriate location. And we feel that spot zoning in a rural area for this uncommitted startup is inappropriate. So Commissioner Thomas and Commissioner Jones and Commissioner Giffens, I would request that you please vote no, and or at least delay this rezone request. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, just a reminder to folks, when you hear the tone, you have 30 seconds left to complete your thoughts and your comments. Next, we have Brian. Good morning. Can you give us your name and let us know if you're a Monroe County resident?
Yes, I can. My name is Brian Booz. I am a Monroe County resident. I reside here in Windsor Private. In fact, I'm the vice president of the Windsor Private Homeowners Association out here. And so first of all, thank everybody for their time. We do appreciate it. I wanted to start with the idea that, yeah, VJ team, the petitioner, has clearly said one way or another, we really don't think we're going to exist in this location for an extended period of time, which of course then means the issue is who next that's going to do this after it is rezoned, if this is approved to LI. I mean, we're playing with opening the floodgates on this for an individual who has said, you know, I'm going to get this rezoning done, and then very likely I'm not going to be here. It's going to be somebody else that operates here. And I think that is just kind of the core issue behind a lot of this. It's going to get rezoned to not for so much for this petitioner, but for whoever is next. That definitely inflicts harm on the surrounding area, because that's a huge unknown that the floodgates will be open. Second, I want to say that at the beginning of this, you read what was pretty much your mission statement, and it pretty much started with the commission's role was to protect the rights of all of the people. And yet through this whole process, we've heard over and over again at the various levels of review of this, we have to find a way to help this guy. We have to find a way to help this guy. Well, I would like to think that the same thing applies to the 38 residents and their families and their kids and everybody who are all Monroe County residents in this neighborhood. I mean, if we're going to stick by our credo of we're going to protect the rights of all people, I don't think that rezoning this for one petitioner, one owner, instead of the 38 nearby, I don't think that's equitable at all. And I don't think we are protecting the rights of all the people in Monroe County by going down this path. So, I mean, I'd like to think that when we said that at the beginning of the meeting, we meant it. And I think this is somewhat of a test of that along the way. Also, it was said that, you know, the old comprehensive plan, you know, might need to look at it again. You know, so many things have changed. I will agree with what others said before me. Not that much changed out here. It's an interstate. We got a roundabout. Other than that, it was 4-lane. It's now 4-lane now. Everything about it didn't change as much as people would say, oh my goodness, it's a interstate now, so it changed. In fact, when I look around, I see new house residential things going in right across 69 to the west. I'm directly familiar with one new build residential going on. I've been advised of a new residential that's going to happen here in our neighborhood. So the movement I see is that this is becoming, if anything, more residential in this area and not commercial. So again, I appreciate everybody's time, and I hope you do strive to protect the rights of all of the people involved with this. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, we have Vince. If you could give us your full name and let us know if you're a Monroe County resident, please.
Yes, hello. Hopefully everybody can hear me. My name is Vince Halligan. I am a Windsor private resident since 2013. I'm up here near the front of the property, so I've borne the brunt of a lot of the construction over the last couple of years, including Oliver Winery. And I know we can't go back in the future, but similarly, before Oliver Winery expanded, we heard similar promises that the neighborhood would not be impacted. Well, we see mines going through here now. I hear them unloading and loading. The warehouse is maybe 100 yards from my house. Most definitely has negatively impacted my property. To address some of the points that the gentleman had made earlier, The tree line is essentially a single line of trees between the two properties. In the wintertime, it will provide no buffer and no visual screen, if you will. Once we let the cat out of the bag with some of these things, I know what people are planning on doing, but as one of the previous callers mentioned, that's nice to hear, but what's actually going to happen is what we're concerned about. I have a natural spring on my property. I have 5 acres. I moved out here to live in the country, have some privacy. And as Brian stated, I feel like to some degree that the wishes of the individual citizens are being ignored in favor of establishing a new business and chasing dollars, essentially. So I would ask all of you to carefully consider this and what it might mean for the future of this area and the surrounding areas, and to please vote no. I'm sorry that wasn't very well stated, but hopefully I got my opinion across. I do appreciate your time and your efforts. You're in a difficult situation. However, for obvious reasons, I must be opposed to this, and I hope you join me in the vote. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Vince. No, it was very well stated. Appreciate it. Next, KW, if you could give us your full name and also let us know if you're a Monroe County resident.
Yes, my name is Ken Ertl, and I have lived in the Windsor private subdivision for 23 years. And the subdivision is, we're quite proud of the all of them spend a great amount of effort and money in maintaining and upgrading, improving their homes. And as you know, homes are in many respects the largest asset of many people. So anything that may threaten that is of great concern to people. And this is one of those situations. Now, I'm not opposed to growth or change. Even disruptive change is good on occasion, but this is not one of those occasions. I think my neighbors have expressed very well my concerns about the potential changes in the future. So I won't be repetitive there, but I will say that we have elected you to be our representatives to ensure the best for our community. And we are telling you forcefully, but respectfully, that we do not want this change in the zoning. So we would request and expect you to listen as you are this morning, and thank you very much for that, and heed our concerns. So thank you for your time, and I'll leave it at that.
Right. Thank you. So it looks like Joe Myers has the hand raised again, but this is the time to hear for people who are opposed. So Dave, if you could give us your full name and let us know if you're a Monroe County resident, please.
Hi, thank you for the opportunity to provide my thoughts in opposition to the rezone. My name is David Gent. I live here in Windsor Private. My family and I have lived here for 21 years. As we've heard already, the planning department initially offered a negative recommendation for the rezone. There was a discussion about spot zoning. This is clearly spot zoning. As Tammy said, the nearest other LI area is over 5 miles away from here today. So this is exactly what I think is not desired in the planning for Monroe County. I looked through the notes in the packet that Tammy had sent, and I pulled out just a couple of quotes from the different meetings that had happened. So these are quotes from different meetings. Someone said, the reason to light industrial seems an overreach. Someone else says, what happens to this site in the future, especially with regards to lack of sewer? So, I know that Mr. Myers has said there's more space on the property. We could expand more buildings. I'm not sure how that works without the connection to commercial septic. Someone else in a meeting said the petitioner seems low, or the use seems low in intensity, but careful consideration must be made to the resident to the east, and that's us. And I think we need to be careful. You need to be careful about your consideration to that. I think the most concerning comment that I saw quote is this: there is not a guarantee that there won't be large intensive industrial use should the area be rezoned. And this goes directly to the second lot. If this is approved, the owner of the second building will be on our doorsteps tomorrow asking that building to be rezoned. As folks have said, and I looked it up last night on the real estate pages, it's already listed as an industrial site. So I don't think this is about supporting a small startup in Monroe County. I think this is about a real estate deal. You know, Bill Cook started his company on 2nd Street. Microsoft, Apple, Dell, Google, and even Walt Disney was started in a garage. So why does $1 for a building incur thousands of dollars a year in upkeep and maintenance of the building for 3 employees? And he states himself he intends to add maybe 2 or 3 people a year. So this is not about him starting a business. A larger building that he needs, that he would sublet and ultimately sell as a rezoned property to LI and make a lot of money. And now the problem of that is transferred not from the current owner of the building, it's transferred to the neighbors in my family. Thank you for your time.
Right, thank you so much. Next, we have Gary. Good afternoon now.
Thank you. My name is Gary Mexick. I'm the treasurer of the Windsor Private Homeowners Association. And I've heard everybody speak so far, and I know everybody in Windsor because I've been a member of Windsor since 1994, so I'm probably one of the eldest statesmen living around there from that perspective. And so I've lived through a lot of things when Windsor was first started, and when we first moved in, it was and still remains one of the most beautiful neighborhoods you'll ever see in the entire county. That has to be maintained no matter what. We have lived through, for example, I-69, and everybody was just up in arms about I-69, primarily because of noise. And to this day, we do still live through noise from I-69. We really cannot have any light industrial moving next door that could increase that. So we're pretty much set in our ways right now and really want to leave everything agricultural. We are in the country. You just, if you haven't, drive through Windsor Private. Just drive through and take a look at how things are laid out. The tree line that people have said probably needs to be redone. I mean, when you think about it. But it is absolutely gorgeous and it needs to stay that way. And I ask each of the commissioners to, number one, take a tour. I'll be very happy to take a tour with you. But please do not approve this particular zoning change. Thank you very much. And I give my time.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much. Next, we have PK Patel. If you could give us your full name and also let us know if you're a Monroe County resident, please.
Sorry, I was muted. Hi, my name is PK Patel. I'm also, like Gary said earlier, one of the earlier residents. I've been here for almost since 1994. I think all of my neighbors and friends and colleagues made a good enough argument and reason for you to consider. And I humbly request you to oppose this petition. I think Dave made a pretty good point. This is simply a real estate deal. We are close neighbors. We live here because all the reasons my neighbors explained and described. You really do not want commercial and industrial zoning next to the neighborhood. And I'll be glad to join Gary and give you guys tours so you will understand where we're coming from. And please listen to us. We want you in the office and we will want you again, but we really cannot have this rezoning. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It looks like we have another commenter, Jason. and give us your full name, please, and also let us know if you're a Monroe County resident.
Hi, good morning, Commissioners. Jason McCauley, and I'm a resident of Monroe County, and I'm lucky enough to be the attorney representing the Windsor Private Homeowners Association, which neighborhood is located directly to the east of the petition site. You've heard from some of the individual residents, obviously, and they've given you a great indication of the on-the-ground facts and what it looks like out there, and they've offered to show you around. I've got to tell you that I have some legal concerns about whether the record and the facts support this request or if this is in fact spot zoning. We have made a request through Mr. Schilling for public records just to review this in a little bit more detail. Our real question is whether the proposed rezone bears a rational relationship to the public health, safety, morals, convenience, or general welfare, or if this is in fact spot zoning and only for the benefit of Mr. Myers and his entity. Further than that is the question, as many of my clients have raised, is whether or not the real benefit to this is for the owner, both of Lot A and in the future, someone that comes before you asking for a rezone for Lot B. I've reviewed the findings and the record thus far. There really is an overarching theme from the petitioner and from the staff that the petitioner doesn't want to be in the position of the current owner if the proposed use doesn't work out. And supposedly that concern, the petitioner has asked for a rezone for multi-uses rather than a use variance. The concern of my clients in Windsor Private really comes down to this, is there's no proposal that's specific enough because they didn't ask for a use variance. They can't have a measurable impact to understand how this is going to affect them. And so they're left hanging out there to see, is it going to be an Amazon there next week, or is it going to be a storage facility? What's the traffic going to be like? And the petitioner has indicated that if they have strong financial growth, that they're going to move on. And so this is going to have a lasting impact that my clients have to deal with after they have set sail. And I appreciate that Mr. Myers has said that his use, what he feels the limited impact would be on the neighborhood, but he's also said that they may not be in it for the long haul, whether they prosper or they don't. Viewing the comprehensive plan, we support and agree with the staff's recommendation of denial. We ask that the commissioners view this as a request from the HOA that they want to see a measurable impact, and that would be a use variance rather than a rezone. And so we're asking you on behalf of the HOA today to deny this petition for rezone. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much. All right. Okay. Okay, it appears we don't have any other commenters today. And so with that, we'll come back to the board for a discussion, comments or questions. Commissioner Jones?
Yeah, I find it very unsettling that there's so much ambivalence surrounding this project. Nothing seems to really be stated definitively. And it is especially troubling that the northern lot is already being advertised as industrial. I don't understand why they think they can do that at this point. Clearly, this does change the nature of the area. The use map shows by far mostly residential use. And I can understand that in a residential area, people aren't anxious to have something plopped down right next to them that may or may not be compatible with them. It does concern me that there's no sewer there. That I also was a little troubled by the statement that planning may limit parking. Once again, that is a little ambivalent, and I wouldn't want to count on that to happen. And residents do matter. We do need to take into account how the residents in the area feel. So anyhow, that's what I have to say.
Commissioner Gittens?
Yeah, I am disturbed by the fact that we aren't being asked for rezone on both properties, especially given how connected they are and how there's just a driveway even that connects one to the other. I am concerned about a lack of the buffer that's been talked about. And I guess I know that it's been recommended for approval, but I really have real hesitations about this. It is spot zoning, as has been stated. And so even though I know that our planning department would be very, very thorough with any review of site plans and approval, I don't know that we need to put that responsibility on them at this point. So thank you.
Yeah, and I would like to say I really appreciate both the petitioner and planning staff, and of course, all of the residents who've taken the time in the middle of the day to speak on this issue. I was hopeful that the revisions to the petition would be sufficient to overcome the concerns of the residents in the area. And clearly they're not, and I'm fine with that, and that's why I'm especially grateful that these folks took the time to come out today to comment on this petition. So I am nothing if not protean and willing to learn and change. I initially voted for this, hoping that the restrictions and the concerns would be addressed by the recorded commitments that was required by the limitation of the use. And I absolutely hear what these residents are still concerned about, and that those concerns have not been alleviated, and I absolutely respect that. We have to take their needs and focus on their needs over those who are wanting to create a change. And this is something we've done in the past. And so I will be voting no on this. And unless there are other comments from my colleagues, we'll go ahead and have Mr. Cockrell please call the roll on ordinance 2021-45.
Commissioner Thomas.
No.
Commissioner Jones. Commissioner Giffens.
In support of the residents, I'm voting no.
Motion fails 3-0.
Thank you so much. And with that, we don't have any other appointments today. Just a couple of quick announcements. Just a reminder to our residents that we are always looking for board and commission appointees. So please, now's a great time to apply. Go to co.monroe.in.us. You can look at the range of board and commission activities and go ahead and apply. This is a great time to do it because we're almost in November and we are going to be making appointments very soon. Also, a note that the Township Assistance Fund money is still available as long as the governor's order is in place. That Township Assistance Fund is, we worked with the County Council to provide this funding to our township trustees to provide to residents who are struggling with things like rent and utilities and paying for basic necessities. So if you are a county resident, you live in a township, whether you live in the city, town, or neither, just contact your township trustee. They also have other resources to be able to help you out. COVID has really had such an impact on so many of our residents' financial situations, and this is a great way to get help if you need it. But again, time may be limited on this, so if you do need help, please reach out. To find your township trustee, go dial 211 or go to in211.org. We also have a list with contact information in each of the minutes of our meetings. Lastly, I will note that the remonstration process for The proposed annexation continues. We had some amazing meetings at the fairgrounds. They're pretty packed, and got hundreds of petitions signed, the legal remonstration petition signed in just a few days' time, which is great. Appreciate the work of our auditor, Ms. Catherine Smith, but also a note that if you are interested in remonstrating, you may come to the courthouse Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. And right inside the north door, which is easily accessible from ADA parking spots on 6th Street, just come right inside the door and you will find a representative from the auditor's office there willing to help you out. So you won't get lost in the maze of the courthouse building. They're there waiting for you and are there to help you. Also, that there are a number of residents who have volunteered to collect signatures on their driveways and across at various neighborhoods. If you want some information or if you want to help out, please go to stopbloomingtonannexation@gmail.com, or you can call 812-361-4424 for more information. 812-361-4424. Do my colleagues have anything else for the announcements today? Okay. So with that, it is 12:21. We're going to adjourn this meeting and our work session will begin at 12:30. Is that okay with my colleagues? 12:30? Yes? Okay. No objections. We'll meet again at 12:30 for the work session. We are adjourned. Thanks, everyone. Please get vaccinated.